The rain had come early that summer, thundering against the windows like a warning. Alina stood at the kitchen counter, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea, but her eyes were miles away, lost in the storm outside. Her husband, Sean, had left for a business trip overseas 2 weeks ago. In his place, his younger brother Rayan had moved in, supposedly just to keep her company and help with the house. But things were shifting. At first, it was simple things. He offered to fix the leaky pipe under the sink. He brought her groceries without her asking. He'd make jokes to cheer her up when the silence got too loud in the evenings. They laughed together. They watched movies in the dim glow of the living room lamp. She told herself it was harmless. But she had begun to notice the way his gaze lingered when she walked by in her robe, or the way his hand brushed hers just a second longer than needed when passing her the remote. Each touch, each glance, it wasn't accidental. And she didn't stop it. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her. Rayan wasn't like Sean. Where her husband was stoic and disciplined, Rayan was warm, unpredictable, and disarmingly attentive. He listened, really listened, when she talked about her dreams, her fears, her boredom, her loneliness. "You used to paint?" he had asked one evening as they sat by the window. She nodded. "Years ago. Before life got busy." He smiled, leaning back. "You should start again. The way your eyes light up when you talk about it, it's beautiful." Alina felt something flutter in her chest that had no business fluttering. She looked away. The next day, he brought her a blank canvas and a set of acrylics. That night, she stayed up until 2 a.m., painting like she hadn't in a decade. Rayan sat on the floor beside her, his head against the couch, eyes closed, listening to music. When she finished, she tapped his shoulder. "Wanna see?" He opened his eyes, looked at the painting, and then at her. "Alina, that's not just good. That's alive." His praise hit deeper than she expected. She looked into his eyes too long. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was filled with tension. She stood to clean up, but he caught her wrist. "Hey, don't run from this." Her breath caught. She didn't pull her hand away. Instead, she whispered, "This can't happen." "But it already is," he murmured. She turned away, heart pounding. The next morning, the air between them was thick. He made breakfast like normal, acting like nothing had happened. But she saw how he looked at her lips when she spoke, how his fingers grazed her waist when he passed behind her in the narrow kitchen. She tried to avoid him, but somehow, she always found herself in the same room. Their energies pulled like magnets. On the 4th night of Sean's absence, Alina couldn't sleep. She walked downstairs barefoot to get water. The living room light was on. Rayan was there, shirtless, headphones on, sketching in a notepad. She froze. He looked up, surprised but not embarrassed. "Couldn't sleep either?" She shook her head. "Too quiet upstairs." He patted the couch beside him. "Sit. It's warmer here." Something in his voice, soft, low, inviting, made her legs move before her mind could catch up. She sat. "You sketch?" she asked, glancing at his notepad. He turned it to show her, a rough sketch of her, painting from the night before. Her breath caught. "You drew me?" He leaned in. "How could I not?" Their eyes locked. She felt his hand slide across the couch to touch hers. This time, she didn't pull away. But just before anything more could happen, her phone buzzed on the counter. She jolted. A message from Sean. *, miss you. Just 2 more days. Can't wait to hold you again. *. Her stomach turned. Guilt. Desire. Confusion. All in one breath. Rayan looked at her phone, then into her eyes. "I should go to bed." She nodded. He stood, but paused before going upstairs. "Alina, we can pretend all we want. But some fires don't go out just because we close the door." He walked away. She sat there, frozen, staring at the empty hallway. And all she could think about was how loud her heart was beating. Alina woke the next morning in a fog of guilt and unrest. The soft hum of birds outside the window only deepened her sense of conflict. The world was moving on, but she felt frozen, stuck between what was right and what felt real. She avoided Rayan that day, keeping herself locked in the bedroom, pretending to reorganize the closet. But every item she touched, every fabric she folded reminded her of the man who owned this house, and the man who now lived inside her thoughts. By evening, the door creaked open. "Dinner's ready," Rayan's voice came gently. "I'm not hungry," she replied, her voice barely audible. A pause. "Can I come in?" She hesitated. "Okay." He stepped inside. No teasing smile. Just seriousness. "I'm sorry if I crossed a line. I just can't fake it anymore." She turned to him, eyes tired. Rayanne, I married your brother. I know. And I'm not proud of how I feel. But I'm not going to lie either. Every day you let me be here, I fall harder. And it's killing me. The words cut through her. Raw. Unfiltered. She sat down on the bed, staring at her hands. Do you think I'm happy? He kneeled in front of her, searching her eyes. No. But you deserve to be. Tears welled up in her eyes. She hated herself for the warmth she felt around him, for the way her body responded when he was near. But most of all, she hated how he saw her, really saw her, in ways Sean never did. You make me feel seen, she whispered. He reached out, taking her hand gently. That's all I've ever wanted to give you. Nothing else. Unless you want more. They sat there in silence for a long moment, hands intertwined. Then, suddenly, footsteps echoed outside the house. She stood, panicked. Did you hear that? Rayanne moved quickly to the window and peeked out. It's the neighbor's dog. False alarm. She exhaled, but the fright snapped her back to reality. This can't keep happening, Rayanne. When Sean comes back. I'll be gone, he finished. I know. She swallowed hard. Maybe you should leave tomorrow. Before I forget who I am. He looked crushed but nodded. If that's what you want. The next morning he packed. Silently. Without drama. She watched from the hallway, arms folded. Her heart clenched as he zipped his duffel bag. Where will you go? She asked. Friend's place in the city, he said, not looking at her. He reached the door, then turned. Can I ask you something? She nodded. Did you ever feel it? Or was it just me? Her throat tightened. She stepped forward slowly, until they were only inches apart. She looked up into his eyes and whispered, I felt it. Every second. And then just once she kissed him. Soft. Brief. A memory sealed with trembling lips. When she pulled back, tears were in her eyes. But it's not our story. He nodded, eyes glistening. No, it's not. But thank you for letting me believe it could be. He walked out the door. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into her palms. 2 hours later, Sean called. His flight was landing in the morning. I've missed you so much, babe. We'll make everything right again, he said. She stared at her reflection in the window. Yeah, we'll try. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, haunted by the warmth of a touch she could no longer allow. Morning came too fast. She stood at the front door, waiting. The taxi pulled in. Sean emerged, tired but smiling, arms wide. She smiled too, but something behind it had shifted forever. Sean was home. The house smelled different now, like his cologne, like routine, like the echo of a marriage trying to mend itself. Alina smiled. She laughed at his jokes. She cooked his favorite meals. On the outside, things were as they should be. But inside her, something had changed. At first, it haunted her, Rayanne's presence, his words, his touch. But as days turned to weeks, the storm began to settle. She no longer jumped at the creak of the door, no longer stared at the sketch he'd left behind folded in her drawer. It was over, but it had left a mark. One afternoon, Sean sat her down with a gentle tone. You've been different lately. She met his gaze. So have you. They sat in silence. Then, softly, he asked, Did something happen while I was gone? She hesitated. For a moment, the truth teetered at the edge of her lips, but she swallowed it. Not out of fear, not out of shame, but because the truth, in that moment, wouldn't fix anything. It would only break what was already fragile. Instead, she said, something woke me up. That's all. He nodded slowly. I want us to be happy again. Whatever it takes. She gave a soft smile. Then let's start with seeing each other. Really seeing each other. Like it matters. He squeezed her hand. Maybe it wasn't perfect. But it was real. That evening, she pulled out a canvas and began painting again. Alone this time, but not lonely. Her strokes were bolder now. Her colors more honest. Days passed. Then weeks. One day, she found an envelope in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a sketch. Her painting again. A note on the back. Asterisk for the woman who made me believe in beauty again. Don't stop. R. Asterisk. She smiled. She didn't cry. She didn't ache. She simply folded the note, placed it gently between the pages of her journal, and walked back inside. In that moment, she understood something clearly. Desire can be dangerous when it's rooted in what's missing, not in what's true. But it can also be a mirror, showing us who we've forgotten to be. Moral asterisk sometimes, the people who enter our lives for only a short while aren't meant to stay. They're meant to awaken something we buried long ago, so we can return to our path, not lost, but more alive than ever. And Alina, once adrift in loneliness, had finally found her compass again. Not in a man, not in fantasy, but in herself.